Hello Mr. Squires, back again just to do the outside lockers and your motor mover and stuff like that. So, inside your gas locker, we've got at the top there a dual regulator. So as we've got now, you can connect two pigtails at the same time, alright? Obviously what you would need to do to run on whatever bottle you're going to run, you're basically following this arrow here. So it's going to point directly to this bottle, uses that one, whatever. Then obviously it's simply the case of turn that around like that. That will obviously then use that bottle. What you could also do is point it directly up like that, and it does do an automatic switch over. Now the one thing I'll say about it, I don't know how accurate they are at reading how empty a bottle is, so it might be worth just doing it via your manual points, like just swapping it either way, but obviously completely up to yourself with that, alright? But generally, as you know, enough storage in there for 2 gas bottles. You can store stuff pretty much all the way along. You can store stuff this side and this side. Just avoid putting anything on these strips. Basically these come down to so far at the bottom to prevent the door from closing otherwise. Alco wheel lock, generally I can show you that if need be, alright? And then obviously you've got leg winder, and then obviously you've got again some of these drop holes. Other two just there, alright? Now obviously when you're storing things, do as you please with it. It's mainly when gas is in use, just to avoid obstructing them, just for ventilation purposes. Obviously if gas is leaking, it's got to go somewhere, alright? Hitching on side of things, ignore for now, I'll go through that at the end. And then the only thing I say about the locker door is basically where it comes out and up. If that handle is that way round, it's going to clunk the front of the door, so just go careful on that, alright? Just make sure he's out the way, and then obviously that can come out and up like so. Then continue around to the side here. So obviously where the caravan runs off gas and electric, all your fins will be coming out of this one here. Now there's no covers, no nothing you have to do to it. The only thing I ever say about those, just don't obstruct it. Absolutely fine to just leave it alone. Then we have your water, alright? Now it seems a lot more complicated than it is. So what you've basically got is a little filter here. This is just a cap. Inside of that is the filter. It's about so big, alright? Now that should generally last you a season, alright? Obviously you've got a little manual calendar here that you can keep tabs on it. So you've got a couple of little notches just there, and you can say start there, and no, give or take, by the end of that time, you know that'd be when it would need changing. But obviously upon a service, like I said, we will change and replace it. You could also buy replacements for them yourself, but obviously again, you're absolutely fine to just leave them alone if you wanted to. And then obviously where you've got the filter in there, bring that connection out, he says. There we go. In there is a submersible pump that will obviously take the water into the caravan. Now obviously just simply the case of push them into the water, and then obviously connect them into there like that. And then obviously inside what you'll have is this is basically like a cover. So if I take that off, there we go, he says. There we go. So that is just a cover, alright, just to stop anything going in it. But basically what that is an external shower point. So if you ever, or inside, you'll have a connection that will have a very similar end to that on there. Just on the other end of it, a miniature shower head. So if you've got any dogs, sandy feet, that sort of thing, you can rinse off outside before going into the caravan at that point. But obviously if you're not using it, that can go onto there like that, capped, and leave it alone. Alright. Then obviously your battery box. Battery is all fitted on, ready to go. Generally nice and easy with those. Pretty much leave it alone, it does what it needs to. And obviously you've got in there your main cut point in there, which you will have a nice new mains with the caravan somewhere, but just the principle is plug in and away you can go with those. And then you've got the isolation switch for your motor mover. So that is a cap that just comes off. In there is where you put your red key. Obviously ignore it for now. When we come around to using it, it'll make a lot more sense with that, but obviously that is a nice toy if anything. And then you've got at the bottom there an external satellite connection, so if you want to have a dish or whatever, you can by all means do so. Then obviously you've got your fridge vents. Again, leave them alone. The only thing I say about the fridge vents is if the weather took a turn for the worst and got really cold, you could basically either create a makeshift windbreak to stop as much airflow going into the fridge vents, or you can buy winter covers for them. They basically clip into the front here and stop as much airflow going in. If you're doing seasonal camping, I wouldn't say they're mega essential, to be honest with you, as long as what did I do with the keys? Hold on, there we are. But yeah, I wouldn't say they're mega essential. Obviously I'd really only say get them if you're noticing that you're caravanning out of season more frequently, should we say. And then obviously here is, as you saw from inside, is under bed storage. That's where the awning is. All right, I'm not entirely sure what one it is, but it looks to be some form of domestic or camper sort of awning. But yes, nice bit of under bed storage after that. And then obviously we come to the glamorous section. All right, so your flush, obviously I've already unlocked this, but you would essentially unlock it there, push it in and spin it out, and it will come out like so. And then what you'll be left with is obviously that. So general, if you've ever caravan before, the principle hasn't changed. You take a watering can or something like that and pour it straight into there. Now it holds about 8 litres in your flush compartment. All right, so once you start seeing the water, you'll start seeing it right at the back. Once you start seeing it at the back, you can take your pink chemical or your green chemical, depending on what you're using. The pink is not eco-friendly, hence the reason I say pink or green, because certain sites now won't allow the blue and the pink. They only allow green, which is like an eco-friendly version. But obviously if you're using pink, then the best way to remember which one goes in what is pink for the stink, blue for the, you can finish the rest. All right, but generally pink is for fragrance, blue is for deconstruction of waste and things like that. All right, but fill it till you can see the water at the back, then a dash of pink. I'd usually treat it like squash, just because it's generally simply fragrance, and that is its only job. All right, obviously I'll sort this out in a second. Okay, just for the time being, that can obviously be opened, and in there you then obviously have the cassette. Now that can obviously come out in and out nice and easy. Push the handle like a suitcase, handle comes up. They are on then wheels, which makes your life a hell of a lot easier. If I tell you what, when they are full, they are heavy. Then you've got obviously this pipe here, which pretty much you're gonna simply the case of when you come to empty it, take this, spin this round, take the cap off, that can be put to one side. But essentially what you would do then is tip it up to wherever they obviously designated you're going to take it, and then while you're tipping it up you're going to press and hold that green button in the corner there, and that's like an air release which obviously sends all the waste then out of that pipe just there. All right, obviously generally the only thing I say after that is if you've obviously got your toilet flap open inside, which I talk about in the other video, if it's open and you're noticing this cassette is just very stiff to get out, don't yank it, go inside and double check your toilet, because obviously if that's the toilet flap is open, that's going to be your reason why that won't come out. All right, so just before yanking it, just do a double check on that before anything else. All right, but generally nice and easy what lives in there. You've then obviously got your 2 points for drainage underneath there. That one is for kitchen, closest to the tyre, and one closer to the back is for your sort of bathroom as such. You do get 2 bits of piping which I've put in the caravan for you, so obviously if you're having your waste master, lay it there, but if not, then sort of it can be a designated drain point at the back somewhere. All right, obviously number plate, if you're ever moving it or whatever, you can put that on as and when. And then obviously you've got your legs, which is a big cutout on the back, and that guides you sort of to the vault. Wind it one way will obviously go down, and winding the vice versa that will go up. All right, obviously you will have a manual winder with the caravan, but you can also buy a drill bit and do it the laser way if you wanted to. All right, now is this unlocked already? It is. Again, bit of under bed storage. All right, fill it as you freely wish to do so. Then take the keys out again, because in here is what they call a wet locker box. So if you've got any sort of wetsuit, smelly shoes, that sort of thing you didn't want to keep inside the caravan, it's sort of his own enclosed booth and keeps any bad smells away, as well as in there the external plug socket. All right, obviously if you're ever using the plug socket, it has got a little cutout at the bottom there that can obviously allow the wire to come out, and the door then still can be closed as well. And then obviously you have, last but not least, the external barbecue point. All right, which generally is nice and easy, as and once you've connected your barbecue, that red tap at the top there, just spin it and it will then obviously turn the said gas on. Obviously you've got cut out there for your front legs, exactly the same principle as your back legs with those, and pretty much is nice and easy with that. All right, now I'm just going to briefly pause it while I just sort of get ready, because I've got the legs down still, and obviously just before we go through your motor mover, so bear with me 2 seconds. Right, so when you come to use your motor mover, you're going to need 3 things. You're going to need the remote, that red key, and that engager bar just there. All right, so you would first take the red key, come to this point in the battery box, and basically take that little cover off, he says. There. Take the cover off. Now the key will go in one and only way. So Goes in that way there, like that. And then you're going to push it in and turn it on. Good way to know he's on. You can't take the gear pack out once he is on, alright? Then, take this bar, and it doesn't matter what side you do it from, whatever's easiest for you. Basically come to there, that bolt here, which is by the tyre, and try and get yourself as much leverage towards the floor as you can. That might well do us. And then obviously extend him, and then a nice old pull over on him. And essentially you'll feel it. It's like a spring-loaded bar that until it's not going to shoot back on its own, you know you're on and ready to go. Now I just want to double check because you do. So it's got a roll-through bar, and that will engage both at the same time, and that's whatever side's easiest for you at whatever time. Then obviously you take your remote. Simply the case of take the remote. There's 2 green buttons on there. Press them at the same time. Easier said than done with one hand. But once it's on, does that. What you've here got is basically, I can get into the darkness a bit so you can see it, but you've got this little indication at the top here. So you've got 2 arrows over here and then 1 arrow over here. And basically what it is like a speed sort of adjustment, so you can make it go faster or slower. So obviously over here is the fastest it will go. It's not going to race off like a race car, but if you wanted to, you can obviously have it fast. But then obviously you've got this one over here that if I press it, you'll see the light incrementally go over. You say got 3 or 4 speed modes, that being your slowest over this side. Now, anytime you use the motor mover, treat that as the front of the caravan. So that is forward, that is backwards. So you would essentially turn the remote around like that. Once you've obviously got it on and you're ready and it's engaged on the wheels, just put that down so I can put the handbrake down. Take your remote, handbrake off, and drive away. As easy as that, alright? Pretty much as easy as that. So once you've done that, adjust it to do whatever you wanted to do, and then ignore, there you go into the darkness again, there's your sons. That middle button there, ignore that, because that's to do with the automatic version of the motor mover. As far as you're concerned, you really have the manual, so you don't have to worry about that. Obviously, drive it, do whatever you wanted to do. When you're finished, the remote, after a period of inactivity, would turn itself off, but same way to turn it on is to turn it off. If you're not using it to hitch on, put your handbrake back on once you're finished. Come over to here, and then go to this red key and make sure to turn that off. All right. Now let's say worst case scenario, you happen to forget to turn that off. Now it's not the end of the world. After a period of inactivity, again, let's say 5 or 10 minutes of nobody using the motor mover, the key doesn't physically turn off, but the power to it would. So another way you can look at is, let's say you was using the motor mover and you've been called away to do something else for, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes, whatever, and you've come back and you've tried to use the motor mover and it's not working. I would always go to that red key, turn it off, turn it back on, because that is usually the reason why. All right, but obviously I'm going to quickly pause it now before I go through the last bit, which is your hitching on process, and then you are pretty much ready to go. All right, so 2 seconds. Just also thought, before, I've got a very key point I missed out, is don't forget to disengage the motor mover. So once it's on the wheels, take your bar, and you're basically going to go from the back to the front now, so you're going to just do the opposite, undo it like so, goes right the way over, and then obviously that can come off like so. Now what I would recommend is that once you've started using your motor mover, doing whatever you're doing, once you've engaged it onto the wheels, take this bar and chuck it on your driver's seat. And it's usually a good reminder for yourself to tell you, right, just double check before going anywhere, just because it's not impossible for to drive with that motor mover engaged on the wheels, and at that point becomes a very, very sort of can be very expensive at that point, really. All right, but bear with me 2 seconds. I'm just going to sort of turn everything off, lock all the lockers before I go through your hitching on. Right, so in terms of the hitching on, what you've basically got is you'll have this black handle here, which sometimes will be stuck down like that. Now just grab it, pull it, and it locks into that position there. Obviously you would then reverse your car up, doing whatever you're doing. So once your car's in line, and I usually go in line with those black balls there, that usually is your indication to say you're in line. Use your motor mover, makes your life a bit easier anyway. Once you've in line and you know you're going to go on, you can then start winding down onto the jockey wheel, and then once it goes onto the car, this handle will do that automatically. Now in here, there's a red tab at the moment because obviously we're not on anything, but as and when it connects, I don't know if you can see it in there, but there's a green one, and that should become a bit more prominent, shall we say, when you actually connect to the car. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to be completely visible, it's never usually is, but as that is, once that's clicked down, you'll see a bit of green. Usually it's a good indicator. Now what I would always recommend to do, once you click that, or once that handle's clicked down and you've seen your green, that usually means it's on. But I always do as a recommendation, couple turns back up as if you're going to take it off the car, because if it's on correctly, it will lift the car. If it's on, or if it's not on correctly, it will just jump off. So it's a good way to check whether it's on or not. All right. Obviously, once you know it's on, you can then wind your jockey wheel up into its little cutout there. So that part's going to slot into there to stop it from flapping around once you are towing, hitched on, whatever else. You would basically have the jockey wheel almost in that same position there once it's winded, and then you can undo this handle, which releases the whole jockey wheel, and then you basically want the wheel here, and you can go straight up underneath as high as it will go, and obviously tighten it back up onto there. You then have breakaway cable. This obviously acts as if worst case scenario you became unhitched whilst towing. The idea is to pull the handbrake on the caravan and stop it carrying its journey without you. Obviously you could, some people have rings on their caravans, some people have, or loops on their cars, some people have rings on their tow balls, whatever, but obviously as and when, just do whatever you see fit. And then what you've also got is this stabilizer head here. Now when you come to push this down, because basically what you want to do is when you've hitched onto the car, you're going to physically just push this down as hard as you can. Now, when as you can see there, it's really quite easy to do. If you ever come to once you're hitched onto the car and it's very easy like that to do, I would double check somewhere, just because it's probably not on correctly. What you'll find is that when you've got these, like, I don't know if you can see it on the side there, but as I open that, they lift out, and basically what's happening is there's like friction pads inside that clamp like that. And if it's not clamping correctly or not on correctly, this handle would be very easy to push down, all right? But obviously if it's on correctly, usually there's a bit of resistance to it, which usually means good things. You can also see that when it's not on anything, that's just flat like so. But when it goes on, that will elevate like so. Can't really see it too well because I've got to do it physically, but there. That will pop up as a green indicator to say you've basically done it correctly. It's like a double confirmation almost. Then obviously you have your electrics. 13-pin electrics, generally plug in nice and easy with those. And then obviously you've got your ALCO sort of ATC. I don't know if you've had ATC before, but ATC stands for automatic trailer control. If it feels like you're going too fast, swervy S-bends, dips in the road, that kind of thing, it will sort of pull on the car a little bit, and it's just sort of an indication to slow up to you, or an indication to you to slow up a touch basically. When you obviously plug it into the car, you'll hear a little motor kicking in there. Now in this window, a light will begin to either flash green or go solid green. Now what the flashing green is just a standby mode to tell you that where it's on, but when we're not actually towing it anywhere, I don't need to do anything, all right? Now when it starts, or when you start towing it, that light will go solid green, which is on and working. Now flashing green is fine, solid green is fine. The only time I would ever say worry about that is if that light went red, which out of many people I've ever spoke to, it is fairly rare occurrence, and it technically doesn't mean you can't tow the caravan. There's just a problem with that somewhere along the lines, because it could be flashing red light means one thing, solid red light means another. There's different codes to it that mean different things, all right? But generally, once you've done that, handbrake can go down, and then that is your hitching on process. Now I hope you get some use out of this video inside and out. Obviously if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to give us a shout, but hopefully that is all you will need. All right, best of luck mate, get your money's worth out of it.